The story kicks off in the year 2037, when humanity faces an apocalyptic threat. A massive asteroid is heading straight for Earth. Scientists knew that if this thing hit, it would wipe out life in an instant. So, world leaders built a high-tech defense shield on the moon designed to blow the asteroid out of the sky before it ever reached our atmosphere. Moon-based scientists were working around the clock. But then, Mission Control got a terrifying update. The asteroid suddenly shifted trajectory and was heading straight for the moon base instead. Emergency alarms blared across the facility. Scientists on Earth issued an immediate evacuation order. Everyone on the base had exactly 30 minutes to clear out, or they were dead. People scrambled, abandoning everything and racing their lunar rovers toward the escape shuttles. But amidst all the chaos, one guy, Dugu, was blissfully unaware, sitting back inside the base with his headphones on, blasting music and writing a love letter. He had a massive crush on his team member, Malan, and was working up the courage to hand it to her. When he finally finished the letter and looked up, his blood ran cold. The entire base was deserted, and through the window, he saw the shuttles launching into space toward Earth. Dugu went into full panic mode. He jumped into his rover and floored it, but the shuttles were already taking off. Luckily, one last launcher was still on the pad with 3 minutes left on the countdown. His crewmates watched in agony as Dugu raced across the lunar surface. At the last second, he tried to jump a massive crater at full speed. Unfortunately, his luck ran out. The rover crashed straight into the crater. He dragged himself out, but time was up. The final shuttle blasted off right in front of his eyes. Dugu screamed at them to wait, but it was useless. He was left standing alone, watching his only ticket home disappear into the void. Before he could even process what just happened, dozens of giant asteroid fragments rained down around him. Dugu ran for his life, but a massive impact sent him flying through the air, knocking him out cold. When Dugu finally woke up, the landscape was completely obliterated. Debris covered the lunar surface as far as the eye could see. Then, right before his eyes, a massive asteroid piece slammed straight into Earth. Looking at the horrific sight, Dugu assumed Earth was completely destroyed and everyone he knew was dead. Realizing he had no way back, Dugu picked himself up and dragged his feet back to the base. What he didn't know was that Earth hadn't been completely destroyed, and back on Earth, Mission Control was watching his every move through the base's live feed. The crew felt immense guilt for leaving him behind, and they swore to find a way to bring him home. Back on the moon, Dugu searched through the supply inventory and made a surprising discovery: there was enough food on base to keep him alive for about 114 days. It gave him a brief moment of relief, but the clock was ticking. What happens after 114 days? Would anyone come rescue him, or were these his final days? Meanwhile, conditions on Earth were grim. Constant asteroid impacts had devastated half the planet, turning major cities into rubble. Back at the moon base, while wandering through the corridors, Dugu suddenly sensed he wasn't alone. On high alert, he slowly opened the garage door and saw a strange figure standing in the dark. It looked vaguely human, but had 2 horn-like ears on its head. For a second, Dugu thought another crew member had been left behind. But as he stepped closer, his heart sank. It wasn't a person, it was a giant, aggressive kangaroo that the team had left behind in the rush. Now, Dugu wasn't alone on the moon anymore, he had a very unpredictable roommate. Earth Mission Control was broadcasting this live to the entire surviving population. People couldn't believe this guy had survived the lunar impact and was now coexisting with a kangaroo. Mission Control established an audio link to reach out to Dugu. When his calm speaker crackled to life, Dugu froze in disbelief. Earth was alive, and people were actually talking to him. They urged him to hold on and promised they were working on a rescue plan. Mission Control gave him his first objective: head to the site of the old Apollo 18 landing module. There was a chance the leftover escape pod could be salvaged to carry him back home. Dugu loaded up his rover, brought his kangaroo buddy along, and set off across the silent, desolate lunar terrain. After a long, nerve-wracking drive through the darkness, they reached the Apollo 18 site. Dugu popped the hatch and crawled inside, but his excitement quickly faded. Diagnostic scans showed the pod was only 68% functional. It was a huge risk, but it was his only shot. He had to fix the broken systems himself, or the pod would fail mid-flight. Dugu got right to work. He gutted the wiring panels, testing circuits and repairing components one by one. After hours of painstaking labor, the pod's console flickered back to life. Mission Control watched the livestream in awe, realizing he actually had a fighting chance. But then came a crushing blow. Further diagnostics showed the Apollo 18 rocket engine was damaged beyond repair. To make matters worse, Control calculated that the pod's payload capacity was limited to just 10 kilograms, meaning it couldn't even support Dugu's weight, let alone both him and the kangaroo. With a heavy heart, Dugu realized he couldn't take the kangaroo with him. He tried to leave the animal behind and drive off, but every time he looked back, the kangaroo was chasing right behind the rover. Dugu couldn't bring himself to abandon his friend. He gave up on leaving him behind, they were in this together. Back at base, research revealed that the lunar facility held an old experimental prototype known as the Cosmic Hammer, a powerful rocket booster system designed years ago. If Dugu could locate the prototype, he might be able to hook it up to the Apollo pod and blast off back to Earth. Without wasting a second, Dugu and the kangaroo set out to retrieve the Cosmic Hammer prototype. Back on Earth, Mission Control analyzed the plan. It was genius, but there was one massive problem. Dugu had to complete the retrieval trip and get back to base before nightfall. His rover ran entirely on solar power. The moment the sun went down, his rover would freeze dead. On the moon, one night lasts about 14 Earth days. If Dugu got stranded in the dark, he would freeze to death waiting 2 weeks for the sun to come back up. Midway through the trip, the sun began to dip below the horizon. Mission Control braced for the worst. But instead of turning back, Dugu made a crazy call. He turned the rover around and started driving in the direction of the setting sun. Commander Malan instantly realized what he was doing. Dugu was chasing the sun. By constantly moving along with the solar line, he could buy himself roughly 41 days of continuous sunlight to retrieve the prototype and make it back. All he had to do was drive non-stop for 41 days straight. The journey was grueling. Dugu was pushed to his absolute physical limit. To keep from falling asleep at the wheel, which meant instant death, Dugu tied a rope between himself and the kangaroo so the kangaroo could punch or shake him awake whenever he started nodding off. Against all odds, they finally reached the Cosmic Hammer prototype. It was still intact. Dugu hitched the heavy prototype to the back of his rover, loaded the kangaroo inside it, and turned back toward the main base. But on the return trip, disaster struck. The prototype was far too heavy for the trailer hitch. During a rough patch, the hitch snapped, and the prototype detached, sliding far behind into the dust. Dugu kept driving for miles before realizing the trailer was gone. When he stopped and checked, his heart stopped. Both the prototype and the kangaroo were gone. Time was running out fast. The sun was dropping, and if he went back, he'd run out of power before reaching the base. Mission Control urged him to keep going and save himself. Dugu drove ahead, but he couldn't leave his buddy to die in the cold. He pulled a hard U-turn and floored it back toward the lost prototype. He found the kangaroo waiting in the dark. The animal licked his face in relief. Reunited once more, they pushed forward, but the sun finally sank below the horizon. Darkness fell, and the temperature plunged. The rover was running on a tiny 4-hour backup battery. As the power drained to critical levels, the vehicle shut down completely. Dugu collapsed in the freezing cold, totally exhausted and ready to accept his fate. But then, the kangaroo noticed a small beam of light reflecting off a pocket mirror onto the dashboard. Dugu followed the reflection and got a wild idea. He tore apart the rover's outer shell and spare components, fabricating a makeshift rocket-powered sled. He strapped himself into the sled, harnessed the kangaroo to the front, and used a laser pointer to guide the kangaroo forward. The kangaroo sprinted across the lunar ice, pulling Dugu toward the base at top speed. Right as the base came into view, a massive canyon blocked their path. With momentum carrying them forward, Dugu ordered the kangaroo to jump. They soared into the air, fired their suit thrusters at the last possible second, and cleared the chasm, crash-landing right outside the base doors. They made it inside, but the ultimate crisis was just beginning. A massive asteroid fragment, large enough to finish off what was left of Earth, was on a collision course with the planet. To make matters worse, Dugu's comms system failed, cutting off all contact with Earth. Believing he was utterly alone and unable to fix the rocket in time, Dugu fell into deep despair. Back on Earth, Mission Control knew they couldn't let him give up. They ordered citizens across the globe to step outside and point every flashlight, spotlight, and phone screen toward the moon. Millions of people flooded the streets, shining their lights into the night sky. Standing on the lunar surface, Dugu looked out into the blackness and saw the dark side of Earth suddenly glow with millions of tiny specks of light. He realized humanity was still fighting and waiting for him. Re-energized, Dugu spent hours grinding, welding, and repairing the launcher engine until it was fully operational. He packed the Kangaroo into the capsule and initiated the launch sequence. The thrusters roared to life, blasting the shuttle off the moon toward Earth. As Dugu hurtled through space, Mission Control received a terrifying report: the giant asteroid was going to hit Earth before Dugu's shuttle could land. There was no time to evacuate anyone. Scientists quickly calculated one final, desperate option. The engine on Dugu's Cosmic Hammer prototype was essentially a supercharged nuclear reactor. If someone could pilot the nuclear engine directly into the core of the asteroid, the explosion would obliterate it before it hit Earth's atmosphere. When Dugu received the message, he knew what it meant. He was finally so close to home, so close to the woman he loved, but saving Earth meant he wouldn't survive. Dugu made his decision. He loaded his kangaroo friend into an automated escape pod and launched him safely toward Earth. "Sorry buddy," Dugu whispered, "this is where we part ways." Dugu redirected his shuttle straight into the asteroid field. He asked Malan to open a global live video feed so he could say goodbye. Millions of people watched on screens across Earth as Dugu smiled, thanking everyone for giving his life meaning and showing him so much love. Dugu's shuttle reached the giant asteroid. Malan hesitated on Mission Control's board, crying and unable to press the detonation override. But Dugu initiated the manual trigger from inside the cockpit. A blinding flash lit up the darkness of space. The nuclear explosion shattered the asteroid into a billion harmless fragments, creating a breathtaking meteor shower across Earth's night sky. The escape pod landed safely, bringing the kangaroo back to Earth. People emerged from underground shelters into a world that was finally safe. Earth was saved, but their moon man had made the ultimate sacrifice. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.